You're listening to The Frequency Exchange. I'm your resident deity, London Beck, music multi-hyphenate and entrepreneur. With almost 15 years worth of a music career and building my brand, I've done it all. Released several music projects, performed at some noteworthy venues, and even have an award under my belt along with my private production house, Renovere Recording. Join me bi-weekly as I chat with fellow creatives and business professionals alike as we reminisce over origin stories, advice on creating brand platforms, and navigating ambition while balancing the personal of it all. Drop the needle, let's spin it. Hello, good people of the Frequency Exchange. It's been a nice little minute, but we are back. We had to take a little bit of a hiatus to finish moving into our new studio, but now we are ready to get back into the kiki of it all. Today, we have a wonderful, brilliant creative in the community. He's very much a multi-hyphenate, instrumentalist, has his own company. I'm not going to say just a recording company because he covers the whole spectrum, sound design, sound engineering. If you need it, if you have a sound need, he's got it covered. So I want to welcome someone that I very much admire, especially in the production space, Mr. Taylor Greenshields.
Hey. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
doing?
Thank you for allowing me to take up some of your time today. How are you?
Yeah, sure. Good. Just chilling on a beautiful Sunday in September.
Absolutely.
We have some beautiful weather today in Michigan, so
Yes.
just trying to soak it up before it's gone.
Yep, because we have definitely crossed over the threshold of fall, so we know that any minute it's going to be 30 degrees and not even snowing yet. It's probably going to be rainy and then it's going to be 80 degrees and then we're going to get snow. But
Yeah. I love this time of year too, though, because things kind of start slowing down from a busy summer.
Oh,
I kind of
absolutely.
have
Yes.
time to catch my breath and, finish projects up and whatnot. So
Absolutely. And you've definitely had quite a busy summer, which we'll get into in just a few moments. But I definitely wanted to welcome you to our lovely little audio space because you do everything. You are literally the man with the plan. I will forever be grateful for you. And I definitely want to see if there's opportunities for us to collaborate in the future, but I will forever be grateful for you and you helping to bring my baby 2021's The Black Satin Sessions to life. I'm so grateful for you. You are incredibly active just all over Michigan, not just Washtenaw County, not just Wayne County. You are just very much doing the thing. So I just wanted to have you on and we could talk a little bit about some of the cool things that you've had the opportunity to do, some of the things that you have started and that you've been curating, and maybe even what's coming up the pipeline. So to get us started, I want you to tell the people a little bit about what you do, because I know that kind of was like a surface level description, but you do a lot.
yeah. So I started playing drums when I was like 8 or 9. And then ever since then, just kind of been fascinated with, audio and drumming and music and, rock and roll and everything else that comes along with it. So, yeah, I've just kind of been avoiding getting a real job forever. And now I work really hard at avoiding that. So, uh, yeah, just kind of, as a drummer, I try to approach audio engineering and all that like as a musician from their point of view. And I thought that was like it's a very important like aspect because there's not that many people kind of approaching it that way. A lot of engineers, maybe they're not musicians or haven't been on that side of the glass or the snake or the stage or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just kind of, I remember getting it like a kick drum mic first and being just like fascinated by that and being like, whoa, I can take this and the bass drum just sounds like massive all of a sudden, like, and you can like augment reality in that way because it's like that doesn't it's not what my bass drum sounds like in real life, but then you put it through this stuff and do this to it, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that's what it sounds like on those ACDC records that I'm like, why don't I sound like that, you know? So I want to sound just like them. How does that work? So yeah, and just going down the rabbit hole that, goes forever basically in that realm. So
Absolutely. I've always loved in terms of even just like the production aspect of it. One of my favorite parts of production and by extension, the sound engineering of it all. I love being able to take sounds and flip them completely on their head and deconstruct them and make them into something that you never would have known existed in the auditory realm.
yes.
And I love being able. It's like there's multiple different pieces, right? Because you can be the instrumentalist and you can play, like the actual thing, but then being able to take that and make it transform into something that is otherworldly. Like, I think that's always been completely magical about both music production and separately sound engineering. Like, you can make things just sound as larger than life as possible, or you can make them sound as
Hmm.
minute but incredibly significant as possible. You can make it sound like pure joy. You can make it sound like pure rage. You can marry the two. Like, there's the possibilities are infinite. And I have just always
Hmm.
loved it. I think that part has appealed to my creative side the most. And then the other part, too, that you said, I think that it's incredibly important, especially when you are helping bring someone's vision to life or bringing your own vision to life. It's one thing to have that one piece of being the musician already and being able to like understand kind of like the inner workings and the fundamentals of how music works and also how it affects people. But I think being able to apply that to create that finished product and really create something that really appeals to your audiences or your listeners, like pathos. Like, I think that's incredibly powerful. So I've always enjoyed
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, sometimes I think about it as like being like a medium for their like imagination of what they are trying to the artist is trying to get out of the song, and trying to like, latch on to what they are, trying to get it to sound like at the finish line is the name of the game. And like using the sonic, all these tools as like a paintbrush at the end of the day to like and I like really started off like more of like capturing exactly like more scientific, like I want to capture exactly what this sounds like in this room with these people right now, you know what I mean? And then like that's how I kind of started, you know from the very beginning. I was afraid to like, do too much to augment the true natural tone or whatever. Like maybe I'll put some reverb and that's it, and then now it's become full circle of like I'll like dub something out and like put all kinds of crazy things and you know mix a lot of jam bands where there's also kind of like no rules at times. Like they want it to sound crazy and spacey and whatever, have things kind of moving in the mix and that type of thing. So it's kind of come full circle to like capturing recordings and like almost like in a classical sense is like where I started in
Absolutely.
my mom's garage of like this is what this guitar sounds like right here right now, exactly, to like, well, let's take this guitar and put it on the moon and
Hmm.
then take it back and put some flanger on it and then it's whatever. So it's been a
Absolutely.
journey in terms of like not wanting to do too much versus now like I want to do more and push the envelope, at the same time. So it's always a balance, and that's what audio is. That you're balancing all these things to fit into this box that it's not really designed to fit into. all these different instruments and put them in these two speakers is kind of an interesting task. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. And with Fundamental Sound Co., which is your baby, what was the moment what was that light bulb moment where you were like, I could really open this door now that my third eye, my musical third eye, if you will, has been opened and now I can see really like the endless bounds of sound and how I can use that to help other people. Like what was that light bulb moment where you said, I can use
yeah,
this to collaborate and help other people?
yeah. So I mean, it really started recording stuff. I mean, it goes all the way back to like my band in high school. We were like recording, and my guitar player's dad had this very like must have been like a Tascam or something like, but it was like a digital, like very early on digital board. So it was like it was good, but it was like really like complicated to try to figure out. So that's like where I first started recording was in my buddy's basement, and his dad was kind of helping us uh like figure it all out. This was when we were like 15 or 16 or so. And remember just being like, wow, it sounds so different with the microphones on it versus like, what it sounds like in the room, and just like fascinated by that. And like, um, yeah, fast forward, like just started recording bands in my mom's garage and just like jam sessions, like really, low pressure stuff just to kind of like capture it and to see what it sounds like, just like a little jam session. That was fun, whatever. Listen to it back and just be like, doesn't sound too bad, like we should, do some more of that and just kind of refine and repeat, all the time until, then I went to Schoolcraft College. The audio engineering program over there was a really cool foundation to build off of. Um, and my guitar player in my band I was talking about, he also took the class, which was awesome because at the end of the class they have a final project or whatever,
Hmm.
and the final project is to go to a really cool studio and record a band, and they needed a band for that as well. So we were like, oh yeah, we'll do it. So we got some free recording time at Studio A in Dearborn,
Oh, wow.
which is a really cool spot. They have, done some really uh, great artists and like 90s R&B people over the year, and like tons of really cool people have come through. Um, so yeah, so I did that. He did it. So he was a year older than me, and we volunteered to play for that. And then I took the class the year after. So then we did it. We volunteered to play again that year. So we kind of got two free recording sessions out of the deal, which was awesome. And then we kind of got to like, mix our own stuff, which was incredible at a really cool studio that has like tons of great stuff. Anyway, so then I started just buying equipment and just kind of like miking up stuff in my mom's garage, and then like led to like recording my buddies bands just for fun, just to be like, hey, let's see if this is even sounds good, I don't know.
Hmm.
And they're like, yeah, this sounds great, and and the word kind of spread about, oh yeah, um you know it's a good product out of it or whatever. And then I just started doing it more and more. And yeah, and it's kind of like working with my own band's records. Like we did a couple Honey Monsoon records. Like a lot of learning was going on both of those records. Uh, Especially the first one. That was like the first album I ever really like fully mixed. It was like a 8 song thing or so. So yeah, I just kind of kept doing it, uh, and then kind of got into the live aspect, which was later. So really, I was doing more recording uh, and mixing in the studio than doing the live stuff, which I think is like a good way of doing it. because some people just get thrown into the live world, and it just seems like I don't know, it's a can be kind of like chaotic environment in the live sounds. So I don't know. I kind of feel bad for them sometimes because it's like you got to spend some time and figure out what the mics are doing, where they're picking up, and like solo things in the headphones, and almost kind of. So I like doing both because it's like the live stuff is like happens once, and we need to capture this thing or we need to make it happen in this time frame. In the studio, you can do a million takes or whatever if you needed to, or so it's kind of nice having both doing both because as soon as you get tired of doing one, you go to the other one, which is completely different. So keeps you on your toes in a way.
And I would think like both as well as kind of like it's kind of like an iron sharpens iron situation as well. Because like when you're live, there's like no room for error. If shit gets messed up, then it's gonna get messed up, and you just gotta course correct and keep moving on. And like
Right.
with recording in like a studio setting, you do of course, you want to make sure that you're not taking too long, but you do kind of have like a few extra moments to like make sure that everything is good for your takes that we're setting up. If you want to experiment, if you are trying to get a specific sound and you're like, okay, well maybe this hardware, maybe this plugin might do the trick, you kind of have a little more time to set that up. And then it's like when you're doing both, I feel like when you come from a live setting back into the studio, you're just that much faster because you're so used to catching things
Hmm.
in the moment and course correcting before it becomes a real problem. And
Hmm.
then when you're in the studio, then you become like very familiar with the basics and the fundamentals, and once you get that out of the way, then you can like really start to experiment, and there are some things that you can carry to the live setting to make these like incredibly memorable performances. So I think that's super important. I know that I have, because of that, there have been moments every once in a while where if I have a friend and they're like, do you want to do this? I'll be willing to take them up on it just because of the fact that having the duality of those two worlds is like very advantageous. It just
Hmm.
helps you just be that much more better. Um, what would you say has been your most favorite part about now being able to like share your gift with other people and help them like create these incredible moments, whether it be, in your studio or whether you're at the venue with them?
Yeah, I think just like helping people's ideas come to life, is really meaningful and beautiful. And like whether it be like helping someone's song come from like them playing an acoustic guitar in my basement to it playing on the radio or whatever, like getting it from that point to mastering and da 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 is such a process, and just helping people along that journey is a huge part of it. But then there's also the like event side of it, of like just amplifying people's voices who need to be heard, whether it be about activism or whatever, and helping them achieve that is like a huge thing as well. So I've like been able to help out a lot of people in a lot of different ways, like not only musically, but like I've done like a bonsai charity auction and like random stuff like that, where it's like you know raising people's voices that need to be heard at the end of the day. That's like so important. And to think, like I was just thinking the other day, like the public address system,
Hmm.
like the PA system, at the end of the day, you're, spreading the word, whatever needs to be heard through the speakers, whether it be a song that like heals you or someone who like really needs to, spread their message about, activism or whatever it may be, is a huge, responsibility in a lot of ways. So yeah, just like helping people through the process of it all. Like doing events is not for the weak hearted, you know, making a record is not for the weak, you know, all these things. It's like, all right, we're going to go on this journey and it is going to be wild potentially, like, but it's all going to be good because, you know, done it before and, you know, we're going to get through it. So,
Absolutely. And I know that people who know me very well are probably tired of me referencing this quote, but I love me some Nina Simone. So I will quote Miss Nina Simone until the day that I die. One of her most well known quotes is an artist, basically, to sum it up, an artist's duty is to reflect the times, regardless of what is happening. And it's like that doesn't just apply to the instrumentalists or the vocalists, that applies to
hmm
the people who are in any aspect of making music. That applies to anyone in the creative realm, just in general, whether you're writing, whether you're filming, whether you're, doing photography. Like, we all have a responsibility to capture what is happening. When I first launched the podcast, and I started out as more kind of like I don't even necessarily want to say it was kind of like a music history thing, but I guess more so kind of like a review and commentary style. The very first episode that I did was Music as Protest. And it is just it's the reasons that we are even aware of things that happen either where we live or outside of where we live, different social issues that affect us, different social issues that affect our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones. Like, largely, the reason that we even know about them is because we turned on the radio, or I guess in our current day, we went on YouTube, or we opened up our Apple Music, Spotify, even though we don't like them, our Tidal, our Bandcamp of choice, SoundCloud, and we listened to a song, or we watched a movie, or we read, or, what have you. And I think even as we, especially even more so as we, to sum it up nicely, are living in very uncertain times, it is really important that we continue to fulfill our duty, that we continue to tell stories, or if we help people tell stories, that we continue to help people tell stories.
hmm
I often think of one of the people that I spoke about in that first episode is an Iranian singer by the name of Gugush. And I was introduced to her um, a few years ago because Beyonce and Jay-Z released a playlist through Tidal, I guess for like their anniversary. And it was just a bunch of different music that I guess inspires them. And I think her song was, and please don't come for me if I'm mispronouncing it. I apologize in advance, but I think it's Talak, and it's Tlagh, and it's basically a song that she recorded like just before the Iranian Revolution, and it's about the wars that were happening. And I always think, I think lately I've been thinking a lot about her because I think a lot about how for many years, because of the war and everything that was happening, she ended up basically being silenced because at that time, like once the regime at that time took over, like women couldn't even sing. And she was so there was a time when she felt so helpless, and then she started hearing that people were listening to her music like as a part of the revolution. And I just think that that is so powerful, that even us in our own humanity, even when we feel our human feelings and we are down and depressed and whatnot, just to know that we did fulfill our duty, and that someone is now using the art that we either created or helped create or were a part of, and that they're using that to help themselves and help others continue to push forward. I think that that's
hmm
just incredibly, I don't know that spectacular is the right word, but I just think that that's just incredibly moving.
hmm
I want to shift gears a little bit, um, because you not only have this fantastic company, but you also have founded and launched and curate this incredible festival, which is Fun Fest, that
Hmm.
happens every year. And I think it's been happening in August of every year, right? Early
Yep.
August.
Yep. Every
Yes.
August.
So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started FunFest basically just as like a wild idea sitting at the park one day with some friends. I mean, I hang out there all the time and see this beautiful stage like sitting there not being used. It's always just kind of like, man, it'd be so cool to do a show that, yeah, it'd be awesome, blah, blah, blah. And like saying that for like 5+ years before the first ever Fun Fest, like maybe even longer. Um, so like this seed has been planted like for a while, and finally started to poke out of the surface like 5 years ago. So the first one was kind of like, let's see if this is even possible. Like it was kind of late in the game when I like officially decided that I wanted to do it. I think it was like April or May or something. Just kind of threw this thing together, and it was just so cool seeing that space getting utilized, as it's meant to. Like it's such a beautiful space. Like I don't think I would do the festival if it wasn't for that stage in that space at that park. So I did a show. It was like poetry and dancing and
Hmm.
like movement and all kinds of things. Like during COVID, at on the stage at that stage. So like just seeing the space activated like that made me want to do the festival. I was already kind of thinking that in the back of my mind for years, but then seeing them do it and like doing sound for that show down there was like, oh yeah, this sounds amazing down here, and it feels so good. So I was like, okay, like, and just navigating, many different things about putting an event together. I've learned a lot like over the last 5 years, which I think is great because doing live sound and doing events and all this stuff, like it's great to have all this knowledge of stuff that happens behind the scenes, not only with audio, like nothing to do with audio at all, but like talking to the city about permits and
Hmm.
insurance and all that stuff and porta potties and blah, 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 all the cost of putting these things on. When you're doing so many events, it's good to kind of know what it's like putting all that stuff together, because it's a lot, and there's a lot of aspects that go into a successful event. you know
Of
and
course.
that you could think of it as like monetarily successful, or as like it being like a successful event, like actually. So there's many different aspects, and like I just love that space and being able to bring so many different people together. There was a thing that kind of happened during COVID again, like it wasn't on the stage down there, but it was kind of on the other side of the park, and there was like maybe a few bands played, and it was just like completely like, you know not a city event or anything. It was just kind of like random community people coming together for the first time, like in the middle of COVID. Maybe it's the first time people seeing each other in like months, maybe. And seeing that, people playing frisbee, people just rocking out, whatever, really helped. Also, like helped me kind of, inspire me to put it together, because like I don't know, just getting people together in that park is powerful, and it's a beautiful spot, and the stage is made for that. And then later I found out that like the Frog Island Blues and Jazz Festival used to happen down there, and trying to tie in some of the history of that
Hmm.
festival with Fun Fest. So we've had like Thornetta Davis and Gabriel Brass Band, and other kind of throwback artists that played the festival like 25, 30 plus years ago. So it's also full circle for the artists, but for me and the festival and the space too. So like interweaving some of that stuff in there as well. So yeah.
In this weird way, I do appreciate that COVID um, really encouraged us to kind of get back out and start to have more events. I know when, like right after COVID, I know that like Top of the Park, they have their Top of the Park. They have their Live Here Now series. And I absolutely loved when I saw that. I absolutely loved that they were putting music in all of these other places, even when there wasn't like a traditional like shell or anything. Like just plopping
Hmm.
some live music like right in a park and having neighbors like peek their heads out of the door and
Yeah,
like
that was
come and
amazing.
join, everyone else. Like I just absolutely love I love how I love the organic encouragement of community out of just people just hearing music, whether they
Yeah,
like what they heard, whether they were curious about what was happening, that they could just come down and just have this like beautiful moment of fellowship.
right.
And to your point, there's like, especially like in the Ann Arbor Ipsy area, there's like a lot of, there's quite a few more shells and things that are very much underutilized. I know there's the shell in Wheeler Park that was very vacant for quite a while, at least from what
Okay.
I was seeing. And what is that off of? Jesus. Now that I don't live in Michigan, I can't remember shit. I can't remember where anything is, but I know
It's all
that's
right.
I know that's on like
It's
the
just so many
west.
spaces, yeah, that
Yeah,
could be utilized for more than, and that's what's about at the end of the day is like giving the stage back to the community is, so it's pretty cool.
absolutely. What would you like the peak to be for Fun Fest? Or do you already feel like you're already there?
Good question. I don't know. I think it's evolving and growing every year into its own thing, like I always tell people like it's its own organism at this point. Like it it's like taking me over as its like body that runs it. Um but like I don't know, I think I don't want it to be like too crazy
Hmm.
big and there's like people everywhere. It's kind of a nice like small medium kind of like thing where there's not a million people, it's not $1 million, but at the same time, with the bands they're playing and still having local bands, have them be, bigger local bands or whatever, but like still be local. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? When you start having national acts and all that, it starts becoming a little different. So I think keeping it like its own thing, but not having it get out of control to like, whoa, I can't control this crazy thing. So but like in the last 3 years, it's really grown a lot. Those first couple years, it was just kind of like, let's just throw this thing together and see what happens. But now it's like, oh wow, yeah, there's like, you know, a lot of people that enjoy it and want to see it happen. So like all year long, I do all the stuff that has to happen for it to happen, and you don't really have the reminders of why you do it until
Hmm.
the one day that it happens. So like then the one day that it happens, you see everyone enjoying it and kids having fun running through the bubbles and like bands just killing it and sounding amazing and doing what they do. And then you're like, oh yeah, this is why I do this. So it's kind of a weird journey of like there's so much work throughout the whole year for this one beautiful, amazing day.
And it is a lot of work. I mean, I even when I just partnered with Amplify on their last kickback, like I wasn't doing that by myself. We weren't, like we had each other as support, and that was still a lot. That was a lot of work. That was a lot of work, and
Yeah, totally.
that definitely resonates with me. The sentiment of you actually get to the space and you have the event, and you're like, okay, I am, back in my Zen mode, and this is
Yeah.
exactly what Like you're absolutely right. It is very fulfilling just to look around and just seeing people dancing and, everybody
Yeah,
is supporting this mission that you're trying to galvanize and propel. So yes, it
it's
very much is a
beautiful.
lot of work, but you have been doing an excellent job. I mean, you even have a billboard for your festival.
Yeah,
You've
that's
had a
right. That's
billboard.
right. That's right. It was amazing. Yeah, big shout out to Bank of Ann Arbor and
Yes.
Amplify, and Amplify was a sponsor this year as well. Thank goodness. So just getting our artists paid. I mean, I don't want the money; just give it straight to the artists. So you know, just getting it's a huge responsibility. Also, this was another aspect of it. Like during COVID, just developing another event that artists can do and get paid from.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Is huge. So like with a lot of these festivals since COVID, like the medium to small festivals, like it's really hard for them to keep going. Like even some of these giant ones, it's so much harder. Everything is so much more expensive since COVID, and that's another reason why I kind of started Fun Fest is just like seeing some really great festivals kind of die out over the years locally is a big bummer. So it's doing something it's like not insanely large, but not, it's not a small thing either at the same time. So in that little middle area is kind of hard for these music festivals to survive these days. With like the middle class of anything is hard to survive these days, whether it be a normal person or a musician or a festival or it's tough. So
Of course. Something that keeps coming up with this podcast since we did the relaunch as the Frequency Exchange, um, something that comes up time and time again is that we have all seen an opportunity to basically create our own lanes or create a new lane for other people. One thing that we have all kind of talked about a lot is seeing an opportunity to create opportunities for other people. And I want you to kind of talk a little bit about your perspective on just kind of like how important it is to continue to create community, especially as, I mean, the arts have always been underrepresented, whether it is you growing up in a school system and being me growing up in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is very musical and very creative, but at the same time, there were a lot of times when I had a lot of friends and peers that had to give up a concert or whatever because the coach was like, nope, you got to be at conditioning or you have to be at this meet. And it's like, well,
hmm
seems like that is always taking priority. And then again, when you become an adult on when you start to like look at politics and you look at federal and national things, we see that anything with sports tends to get a lot more attention and funding. And then when you go over to the creative side, there's a lot of, I guess you could even say scrutiny. A lot of people feel like we're not useful. So kind of like, what's your perspective on that?
yeah, I feel like they're trying to take people's voices away or whatever it feels like sometimes, with it being harder and harder to get funding for arts and music. And I don't know, I think at the end of the day, like it's going to happen regardless. It's like therapy not only for the person writing and performing the music but the audience and everyone involved. Now it's like you see, it's so much easier for someone with a song and a message to record. Before you had to go to a studio with $4 million worth of gear in there and some guy to run it. And now it's like pretty much anyone with a laptop and a microphone can get their message out there, which is good and bad. So it's like there's a lot of noise, but also it's like the revolution in a lot of ways of like you can really quickly get an amazing sounding song out there with minimal gear. So, it's kind of double-edged sword in that way. I think we're finding out that with Spotify and everything, it's kind of coming full circle now. Of like, that was a fun experiment, but like it's not working, and no one's getting paid. And even the top artists are like, this is not enough money. What's going on? So you know, you can try to put a value on it, and it's really hard because it's like it's doing so much more than that. So I think the revolution of music finding its true value again is coming back around, and it's going to come back around hard, I think. So I don't know, it's been interesting time to be an artist with the whole, like, it's like people don't value your work as much as maybe they would have in the past, which is weird to think about.
Hmm.
Like sometimes I'm like, man, if it was the '70s, we would be like making $1 million right now. Like these are hits. Like let's go. And but now it just kind of feels like you're just throwing it up against the wall. Uh, but yeah, I think just valuing arts in general is such a radical thing to do these days. Like finding funding for musicians. Like that's the most rock and roll thing you could do at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yes. And I think it's wild because people act like music, like just the arts in general, isn't in everything you do. Okay, well, if there's no photographer, what are you going to look at when you open your magazine? If you turn the TV on and like, what are you going to do? Just watch pictures? You're just gonna like I mean there's some content that's like that, and I mean some of it is profound, but it's like usually when you turn on TV, when you go to Netflix, when you go to your streaming platform of choice, there's gonna be there's music when you open the app.
Oh yeah,
Someone had to
it's
design
everywhere.
that. That sound like a
This whole world is comes down to vibration and sound.
yes.
You know what I mean? And I remember hearing that years and years ago and being like, yeah, whatever. But now I'm like, oh yeah, it's like everything that we are made of is
Yes.
vibrations. So if you can, I never feel like it's a waste of time like studying sound and vibration. You know what I mean? It's like it's what it's all about. Like
Absolutely.
it's just crazy. So
Yes. Really quickly, you
mhm.
have, because I also want to go back to Taylor the musician. You play for a lot of people. You have collaborated with a lot of people. I think it was really Danny, but I think you and I became acquainted via Danny, via Amplify, but
Mhm.
via Danny. Danny Darling. Shout out to Miss Danny.
Oh yeah.
Um, and between being a musician and also running Fundamental Sound Co. and just doing all of these just musical sound creative gigs that you've done, what would you say what are three things that you say has helped you get ahead, whether it be creating opportunities to collaborate, whether it be just creating new opportunities overall? How would you say you were able to gain your footing in the creative industry?
That's a good question. I think when I started doing like I've kind of always done this, but like kind of offering I do live sound, like offering, oh yeah, we can record it and mix your track or your set for you for whatever. It used to be like $50, 75 bucks, whatever, something ridiculous, just so like they're like, oh yeah, $50, we'll do that, like heck yeah. You put $10 together between a five-piece band, then you got $50. Anyway, but like that also not only helps the bands get some really cool recordings and mixes, but also shows them what I'm doing. Because when you're up on stage, you're hearing the mix through a little wedge, and you don't really know what I'm doing out front. Hopefully, the wedge sounds good, but whatever. It doesn't really show you. But like documenting it for the band, which is a whole thing in itself, but then also being like, oh wow, remember that great mix that dude did for like $50? Like that was awesome. Yeah, we're gonna hit him up next time as well. But also, it's like I'm there, and I could make an extra $50 if I just hit this button, hit record, and then do some mixing later, whatever. So that was a huge aspect in like the the whole idea of just making it more worth it for the people you're working with. It's like we're here, we set up all this stuff, plugged in all these dang cables, and if might as well bring a hard drive, plug it in, and record this thing as well. And a show I did years ago, I'll always remember because I, just hit record. I don't think the band wanted to do the $50 deal or whatever. It was like, okay, whatever. So, but then like maybe 5 or 6 months later, the singer of the band hits me up and was like, "Hey, man, did you like end up recording that set? And we would love to have it because like that was our bass player's last show. He passed away soon after that. So that was a huge moment of me. It was just like wow, yeah, I'm so glad I hit record that night because that is a huge thing to them now, like forever. They have that recording. So ever since then, it was kind of like a voice in the back of my head of like, yeah, you should probably record this. You never know what might happen. So
Absolutely.
um, that and just like I don't know, I think just going like above and beyond for sessions. Like a lot of people don't like recording and working with someone uh, in the studio. Like it's not like just like a gig to me. Like I'm trying to really go above and beyond for the artist and kind of bring their vision to light. And like it's a whole thing. A lot of these albums are that last like a year or plus. It's a whole like process sometimes, and it's like that's a chunk of your life and their life that you're kind of documenting. So I don't know. I just try to like go above and beyond and put a bow on it. Anything that kind of needs one, and try to like think of it as more than just a gig. And it's always been about the process of chasing this audio journey.
Of course. Yes. Well, we're almost at time. And I could talk to you about a whole bunch of things because there's a lot of things that maybe I'll have you on at a later episode because there's a lot of other things that we could talk about.
Sure, sure.
But I definitely appreciate you for coming onto the show. Is there anything that's coming down the pipeline? You got any? Again, you are incredibly diversified. So are there any new projects that you're working on? Any shows?
Um, Not really. I mean, a bunch of albums are kind of finishing up right now. A few different things. One with my friend Erica. Her project is called Rick Strange, which has Pajamas is like the backing band with a few other people. It's kind of like an all-star cast and crew. She has like a little EP of like 6 songs, which is really close to being done right now. So that's really cool. And then a new band called Rose Tones. They were just in the studio the other day, uh, working on a new album with them. And yeah, just mixing a bunch of Fun Fest audio right now. Shout out to Tim Blackman. He was out there doing video. So hopefully at some point we'll have those up on the YouTubes. Have good audio and video of the full event, which is kind of one of my favorite parts of it because I just get to like sit back and watch it all happen without like running around and doing every aspect. So I love that Tim is there and captures it. So, and shout out to Tim Blackman too for just being awesome and just, he's a big part of the early days of Fundamental. So we would show up and be like, listen, we got audio, we got video, and we're, it's like the best deal in town and it's going to be great. And it's like, oh yeah, let's go. So we did a lot of collaboration while I was growing this thing. So shout out to Tim.
Yes. Well, we will definitely be looking forward to listening to those projects. And again, I will definitely be looking for opportunities to give you a call because the way that you made those drums sound, I will never forget those drums.
Thank you.
And that's the final note, babes. To the frequency exchange. New episodes drop bi-weekly on Wednesdays. You can follow, subscribe, comment, and share The Frequency Exchange on all major podcast and streaming platforms. Visit www.londonbeck.com/The Frequency Exchange and keep up with me, London Beck, at LNDNBCK on Instagram, Exchange at The Frequency Exchange, no space, on Instagram, via the londonbeck.com newsletter. The Frequency Exchange is a production of Renevere Recording, and with yours truly as the executive producer. BCK.